He's Chase Sr. I'm Harrison Graham. Any given Thursday by Chat Sports. NBA trade deadline less than a month away, Chase. And before we get into some of the trade rumors, the buzz, I think this Damian Lillard injury, as he's set to have abdominal surgery, could impact the trade market because he likely is not going to go anywhere.
And it impacts the trade market for a couple of reasons. Obviously, this takes Damian Lillard out of the equation for an NBA trade. There's belief that he could be out for the rest of the regular season, but there's also this. Are they going to trade away C.J. McCollum now and some of the other pieces on that roster? There's also draft compensation that has to come into play if the Trailblazers slot at the end of the year in a certain position in the NBA, their pick improves, obviously. So all these things coming into play. And actually, Damian Lillard did have surgery already in Philadelphia. They had to work really quickly. Right now, likely to be out 6 to 8 weeks. That's the expectation right now. But according to reports, because of the severity of that injury, the complexity of it, it could be season ending. As for when it happened, back during the Olympic Games, and it's kind of lingered all throughout the year.
Well, it makes you wonder a couple of things. One, is this why he's been playing poorly this year? And two, it says 6 to 8 weeks, but could be season ending. I think this is one of those, if they're out of the hunt, which they kind of already are, you just don't bring them back.
No.
And here's the problem for Portland, Chase. This couldn't happen at a worse time because there's already major question marks about your future. Your one chance of kind of silencing the noise was going on a run and making the playoffs. Well, that's pretty unlikely without Damian Lillard now. So now you face these questions all over again after this season. Like, do you keep Dame? CJ? Do you trade him in the next month? So not exactly ideal for the Portland Trailblazers and first-year head coach Chauncey Billups.
No. So should Dame sit the rest of the year? That's the question that we're asking all of our loyal subscribers and viewers. Get into the comment section right now. Let us know. Err on the side of caution, be aggressive with Dame. Kind of depends on where the Blazers are at in the playoff race, but right now, one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. Type S for sit, type P for play. Get those votes in. And Harrison, let's talk some Ben Simmons now.
Yeah, let's get to the latest around the embattled star, if you will, for Philadelphia. Lots of crazy rumors out there, and we'll certainly explore further here live on AGT. But let's just kind of talk the latest here. They did meet Rich Paul and Daryl Morey. I think I read, Chase, at Downtown Restaurant in Philadelphia.
Yes,
Not sure if that place was named. I don't know if you did some digging to figure out which.
Did not find out the location. That was probably by design because a lot of Philly fans would just demand to Daryl Morey that a trade be made and that Rich Paul is kind of fraud.
There might be some rioters outside if they had found out. But anyway, they met, and basically, while the meeting was cordial, nothing's really changed on either party's front. Daryl Morey says, we ain't trading him unless we get a star in return.
Yeah, the market for him, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, multiple other NBA reports, remains static. There's really no movement on that front because Daryl Morey's asking price remains high for arguably the best defender in the NBA, a guy who has really special passing vision as well as size and has made it to 3 All-Star games. Now, the Sixers have discussed, according to Bleacher Report, some 3-team packages with the Sacramento Kings, Indiana Pacers, Minnesota Timberwolves. And look, I'm not sure what level of player the Sixers are going to get back, Harrison, for Ben Simmons. I think it can be about a fringe all-star, maybe a lower level all-star. But you kind of take a look at this perspective between both sides, and you see where Daryl Morey is coming from, and you see the other side of the argument as well. Daryl Morey, from his side, wants an all-star back for an all-star. Understandable. Unfortunately for Simmons, his value is tanked, even from this past offseason, even after that playoff series. It's just not what it once was.
Yeah.
Probably prior to the year, you could have traded him away for a DeJounte Murray type. I don't think you're getting that level of player back for Ben Simmons. And also for Daryl Morey, he's looking at a guy who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, still has value. He's 25 years old and is under contract. But on the other side, fans, especially me, growing up outside of Philadelphia, want to see a trade happen because the Sixers are a solid team right now. But they're kind of capped as far as their playoff ability and expectations because I think Embiid needs a co-star. Now, he's been averaging 30-plus points per game over the last couple of weeks. He's been balling out. The roster around him isn't good enough.
I was going to say, I want to mention this because, 3 weeks ago, I would understand Morey's side even more. It's like, okay, don't settle. But now that you have Embiid playing like he was last year, where he was probably the MVP before the late injury, it's like, well, Do you want to waste another year? Because let's be honest, if you don't move Simmons, you ain't making a deep run. No. Maybe you'll win one playoff series, but that's probably your ceiling in the Eastern Conference. But if Embiid is going to be this 28, 29, and 12 guy and stay healthy, which, by the way, that knee looks healthy. I think actually getting COVID helped him rest up a little more in terms of his body. I'm trying to move Simmons, man, as much as I have been in these last 6 months if I'm Daryl Morey, and maybe one of these teams that Shams Charania mentioned that have been interested in Simmons will step up. I do wonder if this is going to be one of those last-second trade deadline deals where both sides are like, all right, let's just get this done. We want to try and win this year, and having this guy just hang over us, it's just a cloud over the franchise.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is that I was reading this report from Bleacher Report that said not just Daryl Morey, but also Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid are trying to hold out hope that the Sixers are going to be able to get an all-star level player back for Ben Simmons to team up with Joel Embiid. So Embiid, who's been very loyal to Philadelphia, he's made it known that he wants to finish his career there, maybe wants to hold out until he can get a legitimate co-star, unlike what Ben Simmons was. And these are the players on the Sixers' wish list. Now, it's interesting that this past offseason, James Harden didn't elect to sign that contract extension with the Brooklyn Nets. Some rumors bubbling now that the Sixers could elect to go after Harden during the offseason as compared to the NBA trade deadline. Maybe they'll go after Bradley Beal, but I don't think the Wizards are going to move him. He hasn't really asked out yet. And I think the Celtics would be absolutely crazy to trade away Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons. But JB alongside Embiid, that'd be a really good 1-2 punch.
Here's what Woj had to say on that meeting between the Sixers and Rich Paul. The meeting at a downtown Philadelphia restaurant was described as amicable and professional, but Morey reiterated the franchise's stance that it won't make a Simmons trade unless it believes the return gives it a chance to compete for a championship. Paul told the Sixers that Simmons' mental health hurdles continue to preclude him from a return to play with the team, and the desire for a trade out of Philadelphia remains in place. Sources said this is a classic stalemate, Chase. Yeah. Neither side wants to give an inch, right? And look, you don't have to yet, but as we get closer to February 10th, and I know Daryl Morey, what he threw out that quote a few months ago, this could take 4 years because that's how much time he has left on his contract. I refuse to believe that. You've got Joel Embiid in his prime. You can't drag this out multiple years. At the latest, it's this upcoming offseason. Yeah. But I want to get it done now if I'm Philadelphia. I want to get him out of here and try to make a push this year. You may not be able to win a title this year, but at least you have some clarity heading into next offseason.
It's kind of like an old school country western battle and a stare down where Daryl Morey and Rich Paul both have their hands on the trigger and they're waiting for somebody to flinch first so that they can fire first.
But each side only has one bullet in the chamber. Exactly. And you know if you miss,
do or die,
then it's not a good situation.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to this. I mean, Daryl Morey has to pivot from what was originally a very high asking price and still is, and he has to be realistic.
Yeah.
He's all about winning. He has one of the top 5 most dominant players in the NBA right now, and Joel Embiid. Yeah. Be willing to pivot and don't waste his prime years. I think you have to lower that asking price and go after a De'Aaron Fox. Go after a Malcolm Brogdon and understand that Simmons' value is just diminished right now.
And maybe you don't get a star, but maybe you get 2 good players or something like that. Maybe it ends up being
Fox and Buddy Hield.
Maybe it's a depth play. Who knows? Will Ben Simmons get dealt by the deadline? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Cast those votes in the comment section. And folks, we got some sweet NBA jerseys available for you guys. Some of these on sale as well. Go check them out. Chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. We'll be sure to get that link down in the comments and in the description. It's chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. Not just the ones we're showing you guys as well. You guys can browse that link. There's a ton of different ones available at your disposal. Go check it out. One more time, the link is chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. It is chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. Very easy to remember, but if you forget, click and shop. That link will be in the comments and in the description. All right, we'll keep it moving. Let's talk about Jerami Grant, Chase, who has kind of been linked to trade rumors since he signed with Detroit because they're obviously not in win-now mode. Lakers, Knicks, Wizards, and Portland appeared to be in on him. You wonder if that's still the case with the Blazers, considering that the latest with Damian Lillard.
Yeah, and look, all of these teams, as evidenced by the graphic, have some really marquee players. All of them are in a position to win right now or try to compete with some headline players like LeBron, Julius Randle, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. But also, you take a look at the records down below, and all of them are in a similar spot. They're either underachieving or disappointing up to this point, and they need roster upgrades if they do want to make a run at the NBA playoffs. You take a look at Jerami Grant and what he's able to do in his first 6 seasons as compared to the last couple. It's really been a wonderful story of player development, Harrison. I mean, if you remember coming out of Syracuse, he was such a raw prospect who was really just looked at as a good athlete and a very high leaper, 9 points per game his first 6 years. But with Detroit the last 2 years, he's currently out with a thumb injury. 21.5 points per game, very good two-way player. And I don't know how much he moves the needle for a title contender. He is a very good, well-rounded player, though, on both ends of the floor.
This is the classic. When he entered the NBA, he was an excellent athlete. That was an okay player. Now he's a great player that's also a good athlete. Like, Aaron Gordon's a good example of that, where this raw athleticism, and then over time he becomes a pretty good player. Jerami Grant certainly fits that bill. He's become a good shooter. He can handle a little bit now. We know how good of a defensive player he is. I mean, he's the prototypical 3-and-D guy. He can play the 2, 3, or 4 depending on certain matchups. He can guard multiple positions, stretch 4 if you want to put him there. I think he would be an excellent addition. And honestly, if you're Detroit, if you can get a first-round pick and maybe another pick as well, probably something worth considering you're probably at least 2-3 years away from contending.
Yeah, great Jerami Grant as a player. As I mentioned, currently out right now with that thumb injury, but he's not going to be out for a long period of time. Actually, he's probably at this point closing in on a return to the floor for a stretch run for any team that does decide to trade for them. If they decide to do A, B, C, D, or F, you let us know. And Harrison, NBA trade deadline less than a month away. How are people not subscribed to the channel? I mean, you got to. Hit that red subscribe button, baby.
I mean, this is it. A lot of our coverage has been NFL-based recently, but Chase and I are ramping up our NBA coverage over the next several weeks as the trade deadline closes in. And, of course, we'll be live on trade deadline day. You can book that. Subscribe, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Do not miss any of it. And by the way, we're like, 24,000 subs away from 300,000?
Yeah.
That is an exclusive club on YouTube, and you guys can be a part of it. All you got to do is hit that sub button. All right, how about this trade idea? We briefly talked about this on our Warriors channel. Thought we'd bring it over here as well. DraftKings trade rumors. I love it.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal to the Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, which is misspelled. Don't worry about it. Jonathan Kuminga, Jordan Poole, and 3 first-round picks. DraftKings in the trade rumors game? I love it.
I guess, yeah. Publishing articles leading up to the NBA trade deadline. That's
Evan
what
Massey over there now.
Bradley Beal to the Warriors. And then the Wizards, I honestly think, would get like a pretty decent package if this trade ever went down. For Golden State, I don't think it's going to happen, nor do I think it makes sense. They have the best record in the NBA. They've been playing very well. Their offense over the last couple of weeks has sputtered a little bit in addition to Steph Curry's shooting numbers. But imagine just having Bradley Beal, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, James Wiseman coming back any given night. And for the Wizards, like if Beal doesn't want to be in the nation's capital anymore, you get some nice pieces. I really like the future of Kuminga. I think he can be a Jaylen Brown type if his development continues. You get 3 first-round picks with some protections on there. Jordan Poole can go on a heater, has a flamethrower. And then Andrew Wiggins is having a borderline all-star year.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like the classic as we look at Bradley Beal's past 2 seasons, which this year he has not been as good. Still having a good year overall. This feels like the classic, if it was 2K, I would do it. But do you actually get better if you're Golden State? You get worse defensively.
I don't think there's depth.
You lose your depth and you get worse defensively. And honestly, like, Wiggins, he's going to give you 5-6 less points per game, but he's shooting a better percentage, especially from 3. That's the thing about Bradley Beal in recent years. He's not a great 3-point shooter anymore. I mean, this year he's below 30%, and I think within that offense, you like free-flowing ball movement. Beal's kind of an ISO guy at this point. I actually don't think for Golden State this makes that much sense, if I'm being completely honest.
No, I don't think so either, and the Wizards were one of the surprise teams earlier on this year.
Yeah.
Them and kind of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and both teams have cooled off just a bit. Now, for the future, for right now, I probably like the Cavaliers roster a little bit better.
Definitely
Darius Garland's balling out. Evan Mobley has just a boatload of potential.
Jared Allen's had a great season.
Jared Allen's been fantastic. you saw that deal that he signed this past offseason, $100 million, and you're like, I'm not sure about that. He's
so far it's looking good. Yeah.
There's no question about that. So Wizards have cooled down, interested to see if they're buyers or sellers at the NBA trade deadline. Obviously, massive sellers if they get rid of Beal.
Is this the year for Beal to get traded? Let us know where he ends this season with. Type WIZ for the Wizards. Type O for other as in another team. Cast your votes in the comments.